Let me say good morning to the gentleman in the studio. Hamza Suhini, a member of the NDC's communications team, is here. Good morning, Hamza.
Good morning, Anna.
Good to see you. Michael Kosidede is an engineer. He's also joined us. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Anna.
Good to have you. And Dennis Miracles Abwaje is joining us. We see him. Dennis, please join us. He likes to make an entrance. So, yeah.
Because of cousin. I want you to see me come.
Right. That is good morning. Good to have you.
No comment.
Right. So, Hamza, last time you were here, you made a passionate appeal to the authorities to deal with the issue of these beggars on the streets. The GIS has responded, whether directly to your call or they had their own plans. We are not too sure. But out of the over 2,000 plus that were picked up, we understand 925 of them have been repatriated so far. I'll start off with you. This must be good news for you.
Absolutely. Good morning to our cherished viewers out there, and of course to my colleagues in the studio, and to my brother Dennis. I can understand why he had to work in late. I'm sure he.
The jabbing has already started.
I'm sure he was out there trying to put out a strong case for Dr. Mahmoud Obami against Kennedy Ajapong, so I can understand. But having said that, my brother, I think that this is something that we all must not take lightly. And I think that it is in order to commend the Ghana Immigration Service for this bold initiative. Like I said last week, this issue is likely to have national security implications in the future. We simply cannot afford to leave our borders ajar and allow any other person under the guise of free movement, under the ECOWAS protocols, to engage in all kinds of activities that we consider improper on our streets.
Right.
Because, like I indicated, it has serious implications on our international commitments when it comes to child safety and the UN goals in particular. And for me, this is heartwarming. For the first time, I get the sense that we are dealing with a government that is willing to allow state institutions to work and give the necessary direction for these state institutions to actually do what they are mandated under our laws to do. I just hope that they will do so in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because I know that many of these embassies will begin to make strong cases for their citizens. And on my way here, on another sister station, of course, I think your station, City FM, I heard them make the point that indeed at the site, they have also made arrangements, the GIS for that matter, they have made arrangements for health screening, and in case of any medical emergency, there's a standby medical team to handle that. This is clearly in line with our international protocols when it comes to how you deal with foreign nationals in your country. And so this is commendable. We must commend the Ghana Immigration Service, and this must not be a one-day wonder. It must be continued. We must see that commitment to clearing our streets. We must see that commitment on the part of African governments to protecting the future of our young children. For me, that is the crux of the matter. We must show them another way of livelihood. It doesn't have to be begging on our streets. Let us demonstrate that commitment starting from today. And I cannot help but admire the industry of the Minister of National Security and Interior Minister, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, because he played an instrumental role in this particular initiative, and he needs to be commended. Such swift intervention is what we need from many of our state institutions, and they must take a cue from it.
Very well. Thank you, Hamza. Engineer, let me come to you. This is not the first time this type of soup or cleanup is happening. It's happened before. But these persons move through our borders into our country and into our cities. Ironically, it's the same Ghana Immigration Service that is supposed to scrutinize their entry and everything. So how do we deal with this holistically, stop it at the entry point, even before they get into the cities?
Yeah, borders are very difficult to control at 100%. So we can understand some of those challenges very clearly. But beyond that, when they come into the cities, they stay in certain places and we see them on a regular basis. Now, when they have come into the city, sometimes it's not easy to tell whether the person is a Ghanaian or a non-Ghanaian. But there are clearly rules that our district assemblies need to enforce. The question is, are the district assemblies doing that? Because we shouldn't have said they are Nigerians before the Ghana immigration response, or we say they are Nigerians. No. The issue is that people should not be allowed to loiter on the streets, especially children. But our assemblies look on as though there are no rules by which we work in this country. And for me, those are some of the things that our assemblies themselves need to look at. Borders, we can do our best to improve border security and checks, but it is not, you cannot have 100% border security, especially if you look at the history of our nations, where we were split arbitrarily by other people and decide that you must stay here, you are this, you are called Ghana, you are called Niger, you are called Togo and all that. Because clearly, if you go to certain parts of all these countries, you realize that there are people on the borders who have families right across. So it is difficult to really say that, hey, these are Nigerians, these are Ghanaians sometimes. I mean, we are dealing with a very fine line because of this colonial experience of ours. So yes, we must treat them humanely, but at the end of the day, in terms of enforcing laws in this country, our district assemblies need to set up and ensure that they don't leave our streets and then everybody sits down and decides to become a beggar or anything like that. It's not just about the Nigerians or Nigerians, but also Ghanaians who are on the streets begging and using children and all that. So those are the things that we... Exactly. There's an industry that is growing that we need to check. So I think that the assemblies themselves need to set up. It is not just a GIS problem, it is an assembly problem. Where we have allowed people to just come and live on the streets. People get up, like a lot of your newsmen always say, people are bathing on the streets, all manner of things every morning and every day. So for me, the assemblies need to set up.
Right, Dennis, let me come to you, and then maybe we can look at employing our diplomatic relations to help address some of these issues.
I'm not so sure if, I mean, I stand on all the protocols, but I'm not so sure if diplomacy has anything to do with this. It's about the economic situations. I think it's about survival. Even if you are best of friends with the country and their people feel that it's Ghana that they can run to, and you know the situation in the Sahelian is a major cause of this. I mean, some of the people are not just fleeing economic situations, they're also fleeing for safety. You know, and if you look at the statistics, I was listening to this one by Bernard and Co. Out of the numbers arrested, over 2,000 are Nigerians. 2,000. And then I think a few hundreds Nigerians and all of that. And like engineer and council have said, it's a complicated matter. I think that the GIS should just keep up with it and see if it can begin to serve as some deterrence to the people. I mean, it's okay even if you found yourself, it's not okay, but if you found yourself illegally in a country, you should look out for proper economic ventures than to be on the street and become a nuisance. And the most difficult aspect is even where you see the mothers using the children as baits. And I understand some of them are really making money, you know, off the kids. Because, you know, they throw these, and usually I think they are twins. They wear Barcelona jerseys, you know, and then they knock on your windows and you give them money, and then they run and give it to their parents and come back on the streets.
But I'm also told there's another way of trafficking. They actually have ringleaders.
Yes, and then
so
bring them.
The jerseys they wear is actually to identify them as belonging to a certain woman or ring.
You know, and they sit under, and usually the parents are there. A lot of times the mothers are somewhere actually watching them. You know, so I think that the immigration service should keep up with this. For the district assemblies, before we can get the engineer, then we need to, as a country, look at the structures first. Because the assemblies don't have the capacity. They don't. Even our own, you know, citizens who go through distress with domestic violence and domestic issues, we don't even have shelters and places to keep them. I remember when I was an MC, it was always a dilemma that you have a situation in the middle of the night and you have nowhere to take them. We don't have structures as a country, you know, so it's about resource, it's about structures, it's about ensuring that these systems are in place first. Then the local government system can support. But for now, I don't think they can support that. Maybe with GIS keeping up, it would serve as a deterrent and not be a motivation. Because if you listen to the Niger story, it's like Ghana is the America or the UK to them. You know, once they are coming down south, let's go to Ghana, because it's the place where you can walk freely and nobody, you know, does anything to you. Finding the Nigerians is not so difficult. The Nigerians are the most difficult part, because they are almost like us. They are almost, until you speak to some of them, you would never know or think that they are not Ghanaians. And so it's a worry, the burden, and then even security-wise. A lot of them are also involved in a lot of the crime you are seeing around. So kudos to the Ghana Immigration Service and the Interior Ministry.
Councillor, I'm coming to you on legal matters in this. There's a Beggars and Destitutes Act. So, I mean, enforcement will make the enterprise unattractive. Because this act criminalizes begging in the country.
It does. But you see, Nana, like my brother indicated, we are not just dealing with citizens of the Republic of Ghana. We are dealing with people who have had to run here largely because of the conflict situations in their respective countries. And Ghana owes some duties or responsibilities when it comes to certain protocols, either under ECOWAS or even the African Union, and to a very large extent, even the United Nations. So you simply cannot be seen applying these kind of punitive measures based on your own internal laws on people who are running away from conflict-prone zones. And quite clearly, the statistics are clear. A chunk of them are coming from Niger, and we know the situation in Niger. So that is the reason why I called for a collaboration with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so at least they can engage with authorities who are present. For instance, the embassies from these countries. They can have meaningful engagements as to how to deal with this issue. We should not just be focusing on the punitive measures. In any case, they are Africans, and we owe some responsibilities towards each other. But it doesn't mean that they should also take advantage of our laws and break them at will. So if there are cases that are peculiar, that we feel that there's the need for them to be subjected through the laws of the country, the punitive laws, so be it. But until we make an effective collaboration and begin to understand and appreciate the numbers and the reasons why they are on the streets, it will be improper for us to start using punitive measures as a deterrent, because it would have a blowback. We have some of our citizens too in these countries. It can lead to retaliation. So there's the need for us to respect that diplomatic relationship that we have established in the name of Africa and see what we can do as an important country within that bloc. You see, Dennis is right. Ghana is an attraction point not only for people suffering from conflict. We are the gateway to Africa. Even Nigerians have started relocating to Ghana because they feel safe and they feel comfortable here. And that brings us to an important admission, especially I'm making reference here to my senior comrade, that irrespective of how we have come, as far as our democratic journey is concerned, sometimes we need to be easy on ourselves. We have done so well, irrespective of the political parties we belong to. And so sometimes we must begin to see the cup as being half full rather than being half empty. Because we have done so well if you compare us to most of African countries in terms of the kind of stability that we have been able to engender as far as our democracy is concerned. Let us stab ourselves in the back and know that indeed this is a journey that we are on, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to get every other thing right. But punitive measures, no. Sure. This is the time for us to activate our diplomatic channels and see how we can work around this issue.
Very well. Engineer, I'll come back to you. You mentioned the assemblies leading the charge on this. And as I mentioned earlier, this would not be the first time such an operation is being done. The arguments about the cost in operations, we never hear how much it costs the Immigration Service to do it.
Well, costs, yes, because if we do not maintain control from the onset, where we control our borders properly, naturally there are cost implications to this. In the name of transparency, some of these things have to be brought. But I want to believe that through the process of parliamentary oversight, some of these things are explained in the Auditor General's reports and all that. I want to believe that these things are explained. They don't necessarily have to come out on a daily basis. This is how much it costs us as a Ghana Immigration Service to have done this. But when it comes to the issue of law, we must also be careful about issues of international diplomacy and versus our own laws. I do not think that you can go into another country simply and begin to break laws in the name of that, simply based on the fact that you are a refugee or you have fled from a conflict. So we need to be firm when it comes to some of these things. But again, the African situation is a tough one, where, like I say, you have people who are living by themselves, and then through the stroke of a pen, somebody decides that you are no longer a Ghanaian, you are now a Togolese, you are now a Nigerian, you are now somebody from Ivory Coast. So those are the dynamics we need to look at. But we have always used the excuse of diplomacy not to enforce laws in this country. And I think that is what hurts us. There are many laws on our books that we do not enforce as a country. And I think that we need to be up and doing when it comes to those things. So we keep on saying, oh, let's make new laws. But there are already so many laws that we don't enforce in this country. And that is what worries. So in as much as we can be diplomatic about issues, we also need to ensure that no one takes us for granted as a people. Because we have elected to run a nation state, and we must ensure that the laws are enforced.
Dennis, for the citizens, the Ghanaians, how important is it that we do not give when these beggars ask? And how, to what extent will it make it unattractive for these persons to come engage in such?
I don't know how much that will work. I mean, even there are places, even downtown New York, that you have people hounding you and chasing you for money. It's all over the world. It's quite difficult. These are places where, I mean, naturally, when people even see you, they want to run away from you and move out. But people are still there begging because by the end of the day, he would get some $1, $2 to move around. And for people like that who probably have nothing else or in their mind are not willing to do anything else, they don't mind. They would hedge their chances and just come on the street. So I don't think that's really is a strategy. My view is that if the message should go out there that Ghana is deporting, people who are coming, and I hear the GIs have done quite well. I hear they've sent a lot of their numbers they arrested. If people should know that when you come, you are likely to come back, it will begin to slow things down. I remember, there are a couple of countries even in Ghana that we used to hear that, oh, as for this place, when you go, once you enter, you are good. Once you enter, you are fine. But as for this country, they could just see you and stop you and ask you for your papers. So all those things are some deterrent. And I think that's the kind of message we should send, back there. That Ghana, when you enter without proper documentation and then you are just on the streets, you'll be found and then you'll be sent back. That is a major deterrent. But most importantly, it brings us back to our border situation. Because these guys are not flying.
True.
They are not flying. They are coming by the road. And, it's something that we've never really addressed. But we don't even have borders. We have it on paper.
Yeah.
There are, if you get to our entry and exit point with Togo, I hear they are close to 40, 50. And I was watching some news items where some people wash in Ghana and pour the water in Togo. The way, in fact,
Ghana and Bafo.
Yes. And I hear there are some kids who live in Togo, Togolese who school in Ghana.
Yes.
And those who
And
vice versa. Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso. So it's a bit funny. And once you have a situation like that, these things are likely to happen. So we must also look at the situation and take a decision that if we cannot invest to really secure our borders, then influx is something we cannot do away with. And if we cannot do away with influx, then what is our strategy? Because you basically have an open border. It's just that small columns and beam that they have welcome to Ghana on, at one point. And there are like 40 other entries. People are going to farm and crossing. People are, all manner of, people are basically smuggling things in and out of Ghana every day. And there's nothing you can do about it because, the person is even telling you, I'm going home. He gets to his house and then he enters to go. So I think we need to take a decision. If we can't build strong, robust borders, then what is the other strategy that we're going to put in place, knowing that the people are going to come anyway? Because this is Africa. We are almost the same. Looking at, even Niger, we have a lot of people in Ghana who look more Nigerians than even the Nigerians themselves. And as for Togo and Ivory Coast and Nigeria, there it's worse. because intermarriages. I mean, it's easy for a Nigerian to tell you that I'm Ghanaian, or a Togolese to tell you that I'm Ghanaian. There's nothing you can do about it. He says and the Togolese, you all tell they are from Aplao. You know. So I think we need to take a stand and do something about this.
Let's go into the matter of decongesting our cities. It's as though the mayors, when they are given the position, their first move is to decongest. I'll start with you, the engineer, on this, because I'm sure you have some interest in development and planning and the importance of it. But we sit back and allow these things to fester. It goes into a community, and now we spend taxpayers' money to embark on such exercises. I am worried about this. I don't know about you.
You know, there's this funny saying that Ghana is a crime scene. And we all laugh about it.
Right.
But seriously, if you sit back and look at it, Ghana is a crime scene. And almost all government institutions have become the crime bosses. When this topic was moved, I deliberately went for this building regulations, 2022, LI 2465. What I see the MCs doing or the district assemblies doing is simply covering up for their failures. Because if you look at this law carefully, it determines how permits should be given, how things should be regulated to prevent, one, flooding. But a lot of people don't recognize this. So when the floods happen and things happen, then on an annual basis we come out. Let's look at LI 57. It says site coverage of building. And then it says that a developer shall not erect a dwelling house on a site of an area smaller than 50 square meters in accordance with section 5.57 of part 5 of Ghana Standards 1207 on sizes of plots of land of dwelling houses. So one, it tells you that within a certain space, you cannot put up a structure there. If it's 50 square meters, you cannot put up a structure in that space. Then two goes on to say, a dwelling house together with the outbuilding of the dwelling house shall not cover an area of the plot greater than the following. Which states that if you have a plot of 100 by 100, it says that you cannot cover all of it. So now it gives you specifics. It says that you cannot cover 50% of the plot for a single-story detached building. So if you have a building which is a single-story detached, you cannot cover more than 50% of the land area. Why is the law proposing this? It states that you must allow rainwater, which is going to come off your roof, to go into the ground. Then it goes on to say 40% of the plot for a 2- and 3-story detached building. 40%. So it gives the percentages for every kind of building that you can think about. Now let's go to East Legon. Let's go to Airport Residential. Let's go to all these posh places first and find out whether they are complying with this law. But we find it easy to deal with people who are poor people. Let's go and drive them out. The people who have built kiosks, let's drive them out. But the people who are putting up these huge structures, where you go and 100% of the place is paved, where does that runoff water go? So these are the real questions that we need to be asking of the municipal assemblies. So when my friend says that they do not have capacity, that is the opportunity we should use to create jobs. Because if you look into this law again, it talks about building inspectors and the capacity they must have to do a certain work to enforce these laws. How much effort have we put into ensuring that we have proper building inspectors in this country to ensure that this law is enforced? We don't. We come into office and we go and create a year employment for young people. All manner of fancy things that are not sustainable. But if you look in this law, again, let me tell process of application. Let's look at it specifically. It says building inspectors. It says that one, let me just give you a typical example. It says database of built environment professionals, the regulation 29. It says a district assembly shall create a database of accredited built environment professionals who wish to operate within the jurisdiction of the district assembly. Have any of the assemblies created this? No. So a government comes in and all we do is run around and say, we must create jobs for them. Look, when this government came, what did they do? Quickly, we are going to have a team, a committee to walk around and check that there will be no flooding. What have we asked, demands have we made on the district chief executives in terms of enforcing these regulations so that there's a permanent solution to what we see. But we don't. Then it says that the district assembly shall publish the database specified in sub-regulation 1. When you have created a list of professionals, publish it. And then they are the people who assist you to enforce part of this law and the building regulation. But we don't do this. So for me, there are existing laws in Ghana to regulate and prevent largely the issue of flooding. But we don't enforce any laws. And then we make a show of law enforcement when floods happen. For me, that is not the way to approach it. Recently, there's been some clip circulating of a 1960 newspaper where the same heading, Accra floods. This is all there. So 60-something years on, Accra still floods because Accra's topography is known from an engineering point. Accra is largely flat. Accra is largely flat. So if you don't enforce major building regulations, you cannot improve your situation or you cannot manage it. So we know that people are building in waterways. Lands where people should not be built, people have occupied it. And yet we look on. The assemblies grant permits.
Yeah.
And when people build, then they come back and say, we are going to do. Look, when it has to deal with political people and people with influence within our society, nobody touches them.
Yeah.
Go to Achimota School, the Achimota Forest. Who are the people who are taking the land there? Against regulations. And yet nobody deals with them. But we find it easy to deal with the poor people on the streets and go and chase them out. I have no problem if we deal with the people who are of influence within the society. Then we can begin to instill discipline among other people. But when we allow everybody else to go haywire, and then we are only being selective in the application of law, it doesn't help this country. Good, because like I said earlier on, the saying that Ghana is a crime scene is evident everywhere. Look, we live in a country where the use of motorbikes for commercial activity is prohibited under LI 2180. And yet, you have a party that is campaigning to come into office saying that we will legalize it.
So they'll amend the law.
Yeah, no, but the point is, and then the government in power does not enforce the law. You understand? We need to be careful. We have enough laws to govern activities in this country.
Right.
But we like to make showmanship. That doesn't help us. Look, we are talking about development of estates and properties in this country. One, we need to ensure that if we control development such that things do not go bad. If we don't, this country is going down. The fact that you have a posh building doesn't mean that you have development.
Right.
Because these are the runoffs that are happening. And it's impacting. Then drains are not being resized. All manner of things. So Accra, for me, we need to look at, and we are exporting this disorderliness round the country. The district assembly don't have capacity, but every year when governments come, they multiply the inefficiencies of district assembly by creating more district assemblies. I mean, what are we doing to ourselves? We create more regions
Very well.
to no benefit. So we need to look at our laws and ensure that the people we appoint as district chief executives are competent and that the districts are being held liable for the things that they don't do right. But if we simply just do this showmanship of every year, when it rains, then we go out, then NADMO, everybody display and say, oh, we are solving the problem. Nothing is going to happen.
Bro, Hamza, decongestion.
Nana, unfortunately, it is difficult to disagree with my brother today on this matter. And like you clearly indicated from the onset, you see, for me, I feel that it is always a way for political appointees at the district level to announce their presence. I remember clearly when His Excellency President John Evans Atta Mills was elected, and the then mayor appointed Alfred Okovan-Dapoy. The first action he initiated had to do with a move to clean the capital city and rid our streets of illegal hawkers. Just after that, His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo became president and also appointed, I think, Henry Kwete as regional minister.
Yeah.
And that was how he announced his presence, where he even had confrontations with some of the traders, largely because of the policies he also intended to introduce. Today, we have a new Accra mayor. He has also announced something similar.
Yeah.
So for me, it is a way to announce their political presence as far as the national capital is concerned. And that is clearly unacceptable. That notwithstanding, that is not to say that those efforts in a way are not also commendable. They are. They have their importance. But I think we should go beyond just the announcement of political presence. And yesterday I had to say this on another platform. You see, sometimes when you are appointed by a leader, you need to mirror your leader. And I have watched President Mahama closely since his days as vice president. In fact, even before he became vice president. And I know that this is not a man driven by quick fixes.
Right.
A classical example has to do with the way he dealt with Dumso. In the face of political pressure that was calling for quick fixes, His Excellency President Mahama resisted that invitation and stood his grounds and went for long-term investments in the energy sector. That had political implications. And his political survival, because at the time he was pursuing those long-term investments, the lights were out. Businesses struggled. And I remember where he said that he was ready to do the needful, even if it has a political cost to it. And that was part of the reasons why that infamous statement was made about a dead goat syndrome, which was taken for political reasons. Because for some strange reasons, as citizens, those days we all seem to think that for Ghana to develop and most of the difficult decisions to be taken, we needed a president willing for just a one term at the presidency. Because we knew within ourselves that any president committed to taking the difficult decisions is unlikely to secure a second term. That was the general consensus. And I believe it is still the general consensus in this country. Because we know that the people will rebel, even though these decisions needed to be taken. So if you are appointed by a man with this philosophy and understands that when it comes to national development, the most important thing is to privilege the national objective over partisan considerations, then your actions as an appointee must mirror or reflect these principles. And so that is my caution to the new mayor. Not to say that his steps are not commendable, they are. But how sustainable will they be? That is what we are interested in, because I've just given you examples of how other mayors and regional ministers have conducted themselves after their appointments. Is Accra still clean?
No.
Absolutely not.
Far from that.
Far from that. We are still in rot. Like my brother indicated, my senior comrade, there are still buildings on our waterways. We do not have the political muscle to be able to act. Even committees that are required for the district assemblies to work are unable to work. So for me, I think that if he wants this thing to be sustainable, the way to handle it is to, as a matter of urgency, engage the Ministry of Transport. It is not for nothing that we have a Ministry of Transport. If we need our roads to be cleared of hawkers, the Ministry of Transport has a responsibility. He must engage them when it comes to the sanitation angle, the silting our gutters, clearing in buildings on waterways. There's the need for him to engage the Ministry of Waterworks and Housing. Sit together with these policy lead persons. Adopt a policy that can be presented to cabinet. And the entire government will meet at cabinet and have a discussion so that we would know the government policy is clear-cut when it comes to decongesting our capital cities. This is being done by 2 metropolitan assemblies. What about the rest? Do we have only 2 metropolitan assemblies in Accra? They are the likes of Ashama that is also densely populated. You get to certain parts of Ashama, you simply cannot drive on the roads. So we are dealing with a serious matter. And I think that the discussion should go beyond the frontiers of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. It needs a national approach. And for us to have that national approach, you need the intervention of 4 ministers. The minister responsible for local government, the minister responsible for transport, the minister responsible for water resources, works and housing, and the Minister of Interior, and also responsible for national security. So the mayor, if he wants to at least write his political legacy, in a way that we would all celebrate, he must begin to activate the channels of communication by reaching out to these people and ensuring that they present it to Parliament for a holistic decision to be taken so that we can clear our streets. But you see, my brother, it is difficult to disagree with Dennis when he said that the district assemblies don't have capacity.
Yeah.
If you look at the evolution of the district assemblies concept, and that is why I belong to the school of thought that we have to get to a stage as a country where we open the system up and allow elections as far as the district assembly portfolios are concerned.
Would this be on partisan lines?
I don't want it to be on partisan lines, to be clear. Because see, sometimes central government is sometimes
Engineers are-
No, I agree with that.
yes, you see, my brother, sometimes central government, the conduct of central government makes it practically impossible for the district assemblies to live up to the dictates of their mandate because of political considerations. Because even the central government is careful about certain interventions that would clean our streets because of the political costs associated with same.
Yeah.
But if you have a district assembly or district chief executive who is elected by the people, has no political loyalties, and the people know that at the end of the tenure, they go back to the polls to vote for him or against him, government or political parties are insulated. And in fact, the true essence of local government would have been felt by the people. And they would have complemented government effectively. But I think that we have failed to expand the frontiers of our local government system since its adoption. Because what the NDC did was simply to introduce a system. But successive governments have been quite dormant in terms of any commitment to truly giving meaning to the local government system. That is why we have many of these things on our law books that are not implemented. But again, I know my brother will agree that under them, he knows where I'm going to. I know you agree because you are the district chief executive. Unfortunately, even funds meant
Must you
for the development.
You've had a very nice,
Yeah.
you know,
It's been selling
nationalistic,
smoothly so far.
nationalistic presentation. I mean, for once.
So we keep to it.
Yes. No, it's okay.
He doesn't even know what I'm coming to say.
I know, it's okay.
He says,
No, see, but you see, I'm
the
talking
weather
about
is
your
really
economic
it's okay.
situation.
It's okay. End on
No,
a
but let me
nationalistic
end on that. No,
note.
let me.
wrap it up and so
You see, he knows where I'm going because he was a district chief executive. We had a situation where even their hands were tied because for the first time in our republic, funds that were meant to go directly to them as DCEs to be able to effectively perform their functions were being controlled at the district assemblies common fund level. Even petty procurements like vehicles for the functioning of the assemblies, those things were procured at the district by Nato Shadow. But you know it's the truth. You had no funds to operate. So their leadership, in fact, mortgaged the local government system and rendered them ineffective. Because even common resources to be able to run their districts, they were denied those resources. You see, Nana, finally, today, thankfully, last week I listened to His Excellency President Mahama. He has indicated that 80% of these allocations would once again be given back directly to the district assemblies to determine their priorities and spend so accordingly. That is progressive. That is what progressive leadership is about. That is how you empower the district assemblies common concept. But unfortunately, under my brother and his government,
You know,
Then you have been there before. What goes into some?
it will be nationalistic. You agree? Nationalistic. You agree?
I want to first of all find out if
when
he has the blessing
Honorable Alassa
of the
Suyini was
president.
going to be a minister, one of the things I told myself is that finally we are getting one major propagandist off the screens. Then he introduces to come and take over from him. I mean, fantastic presentation until the last part where he started introducing propaganda.
Of which you agree?
No, I don't. So I mean, I am an advocate for decentralization. I mean, major advocate. I mean, when it comes to decentralization, I refuse to do partisanship. Yes. Because I feel that this country, until we go full decentralized, we are not going to get to where we are seeking to get to. We won't. And you can go and check and read around. each of the countries that we aspire to be like are countries that are fully decentralized. And their development are not anchored on central government. These countries' development are anchored on their counties and the municipalities and whatever you. That is how the democracy that we are practicing is actually structured to be. And that's why when you look at our 1992 constitution, it's clear, it's there. It says, we will become full, we would attain full democracy when we are fully decentralized.
Right.
And so until we are fully decentralized, we cannot even say that we have arrived.
Yeah.
But it's as if we're beginning to see elections as the only measure of what democracy is. And that's what we are seeing, what we are seeing. You don't expect that when it comes to issues of street vendors, issues of where market women will stay, issues of how buildings will be done, and the codes, enforcement of the codes and all of that should be done or even guided by central government. It would never work. And I mean, I have had the opportunity to learn a few lessons because I've been a local government practitioner.
Right.
I tell you what, this country, we are only being hypocritical with our decentralization. And it has nothing to do with NDC and PP. We are pretending. The central government never want to get the district assemblies fully functional.
Why?
It is only when they are there that they want it functional until they come to the center. I have seen it severally. I've had situations where I've seen ministers who were once DCs complaining and crying about these things that Council Sweeney talks about in terms of giving resources to this assembly, only for them to become deputy ministers and also want to hold on to it. Go to our ministries and you'll be amazed. Resources that are being brought into the country, even with our development partners, for projects at the district level, drainage systems, markets and all of that, social, are being implemented from Accra. And $100 million will be brought into the country for, let's say, a drainage system, and you see them commit 60 million of it to feasibility and consultancies. And then it's in Accra. Then the real value, the real money that will go to the district is about 800,000, 700,000. And then when you put it together, the actual money that went into implementation is like 20%. So we are really pretending. And until we admit that the real, you see, it's not for nothing that our constitution is structured in that way. Our constitution is structured in a way that when you get the money at the center, if it's 1 billion, we have 261 districts. Let everybody receive their share. It's equity, not equal. So use an equity system, population, size, need to distribute. I mean, I disagree with council even if he applauds President Mahama for the 80%. It should be 100%. Districts should receive what the law says they should receive. When you get your taxes, the percentage that the law says give to them, as you have passed in parliament, give it all to them.
That means you don't like the concept of the common fund?
No, it's not like I don't. I mean, somebody must administer the fund. You understand? Finance ministry receives all the taxes.
Yeah.
And they say a certain percentage should go to the district. Of course, it's not bad when somebody receives that percentage to the district and does the disbursement. What I don't like is the idea that central government can still decide that I'm holding on to 20%, 30%, 40%, and that it goes to parliament for a certain formula. Which formula? Parliament doesn't have to approve any formula for the district. The district are supposed to receive their money, as the law says, give them 5%, 5.5% of total revenue. Distribute it to them based on a certain equity, population, size, need, and what have you. When it gets to the district is its own government. They have their own assembly, which is supposed to be their own legislature. They have their own presiding member, which is supposed to be their speaker. They pass their own budget. They develop their own annual action plans. They have their own medium-term development plans. We are not allowing them. So when I see the mayors, and I've been there before, I pity them. Because what they are doing is nothing. It won't get anywhere. How many days can you be on the street watching over these women?
This mayor says it's not an idea.
Oh, but he's not the first person saying it. He doesn't even have the resources to even keep people on the street and keep moving the women away. You don't have that resource. You don't even have it. You don't have it. How much money are you receiving?
Right.
See, let me tell you, Accra Metropolitan Assembly, 90% of their resource goes into waste management. 90%.
There's this thing I've been preaching every morning on the show, monetizing the indiscipline. So maybe he can generate the resources from there.
But all these things can be done when you allow the district to be the district. See, there was a time I had a situation, and I'll tell you, where telecom companies come to the district. I'm trying to not give pointers. So telecom companies come into the district. They are coming to lay fiber optic cables.
Right.
Then you know what they do? They go to the ministries, finance, local government, go and do their own skirmishes there, drop some money there, and then when they come to the district, they bring a letter and say that we have waivers from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Local Government to come and lay.
Yeah.
They did that to every district. When they go to my district in UK, I said, no, you can't pass. That's for my district. Our district assembly has passed the fees and charges for these things. This is how much you are supposed to pay. So I have a waiver. I said, well, the Ministry of Finance or local government is not Equiapem North.
Right.
Equiapem North has passed its laws. I have to go to the assembly back to go and get some waiver from the assembly. Otherwise, I have a responsibility as a district chief executive to take it from you. It took 4 months. They were not willing to pay. Until finally they come, I go and seize their things. They will call the minister will call me as a minister, this thing their own work. Back and forth before they came to pay. The amount of money they paid managed to build a school in Adoso. And so, but for this insistence, this money would have gone, to whatever. So the district assembly concept as we're supposed to have it, we don't. And one of the reasons is appointment from central government. Yeah. Because the only way the ministers can pick a phone and call us and tell us what to do is because they sit with cabinet.
Exactly.
And they sit with the president. And if you don't listen, they will go and gossip. They will go and gossip. Yeah. The next day,
you're asked to go.
And you see they are closer to the president. You are far away in Bongo district. They are saying something about you in Accra. And you know that one of the things about being an MC or DC is that if you don't have ears in Accra, you don't sleep.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what is coming. I think that we need to all admit as a country that since 1992, what the Constitution says we should do with our local governance system, we haven't really done it. It is time for us to sit down, non-partisan, build consensus and do it. Let's elect MMDCs. Let the presidents get their hands off these appointments. Let MMDCs be accountable to their people. Let them be afraid not to live up to expectation of their people. See, if I'm a friend to the president, I can go to sleep without doing anything in my district. Because no matter what you do, no matter the noise, you can't do anything to me. But when I know that I need to account to the people, they would have to vote for me. I would have to go back to them and all of that. I was set up. I think that election of MMDCs is long overdue. I think that fiscal decentralization is long overdue. What are we afraid of? See, there's a bill that has been pending, the local governance finance bill, that is going to allow local government district assemblies and MMDCs to be able to go out there and raise resources based on their capacity and develop their district. And everybody is afraid. Go to the Ministry of Finance, they are afraid. When it comes, they say, no, this one is going to throw, it can cause problem for central government. For Christ's sake, when a district assembly has a financial relationship with a third party, it has nothing to do with central government. Yeah. Because the law is clear. They are semi-autonomous institutions. They can get properties and assets on their own, dispose it off on their own. You can sue them. Yeah. They can sue you. They go into an agreement with you and the liabilities are on them. Yeah. So if you are supposed to give me, the district assembly, a denta a loan, and the law is clear that when you give me a loan, it is me and it's not central government, what are you afraid of? Yeah. If I run into debt, my people should hold me responsible. That is why the district assembly is there. You understand what I'm saying? So we need to, until then, flooding, congestion in our markets is getting nowhere.
Poor sanitation.
The issues that you see, local government minister, Greater Accra regional minister, that's why regional ministry, it's time for us to even disband it. Yes, it's one of the reasons why we are not allowing the district assembly to function. The district is autonomous.
We should do away with
no, but what can a regional minister do to the district chief executive? Even in the current situation, but for political persuasion? Nothing. There is no way in the law, nothing. It only says coordinate and supervise. Supervise what? When the district assembly sits and make laws, the regional minister cannot unmake the law, the bylaws. You cannot unmake it. You and your DC cannot unmake those bylaws by the district assembly. So what are you doing? It is just a political bottleneck to create more confusion at the local level. And that is why we have the situation. Yeah. Somebody will call you and say, you know, this house that you are telling them to not build, you know, it belongs to, you know, Hamza. And, you know, Hamza is one of our own. The way things are going, you have to be careful. You know, Hamza is very connected, you know, and all that. Hey, is it Hamza Suyini? Hey, the minister's brother. No, I beg you. The next time, the DC is the one protecting them to build. Go and see what's happening on the Bree Mountains.
Yeah. Engineer, I mean, on the decongestion and the congestion itself, a cash relook, most of our markets are not built, they are formed. Right? So one person puts a store here, another, and then before you know, there's an entire market community. Yeah. So how do we deal with that?
So again, everything is connected. Coincidentally, a few weeks ago, I had an engagement with the Ghana National Fire Service when they were celebrating the Firefighters Day. Why is the fire service not able to respond and deal with fires in Ghana? Because
lack of access.
Lack of access. We don't plan. The fire service has a hydrant. Somebody builds on it, and everybody looks on. So they are all this. Everything is connected. Everything that we do is connected from the point of planning to development. If we don't do these things properly, we can do these rituals every year and nothing will change. And I'm happy he's raised the issue of buildings on the Bree area. Look, when you study the plains of Accra, if we continue to allow the kind of development that is going on along the mountain, Accra is going to get more flooded. You see, these are things that are known. And this is why the point about district assemblies, it's even more important. The district assemblies need to act. And I'm saying that irrespective of the deficiencies at the moment, where they are being controlled by central government on issues, there are still things within their control that they can do. But they are not doing any of these things. So until we begin to look at these things closely and do them, if the more buildings up on that mountain, the quicker Accra gets flooded. This is a known fact. From all the hydrology studies and everything, it's a known thing. So why are we continuing? You see, it is nice if you have your money, you want to build on a mountain. It's fine. I mean, if I had the money, maybe I also want to build there. No problem. But the issue is that when the district assembly determines that, yes, this is prime area, you can own the land, but this is the zone. It is for residential. And for this kind of area, you can only put up one house for every maybe 100 square meters. Hence the story. You control it. But when we allow, you say, oh, government doesn't own land, that is, no. Government doesn't own land, but government determines land use through zoning laws. So when our district chief executives and our politicians and all make excuses that, oh, because government doesn't own land, that is why we are unable to control development, it is wrong. Because government controls land use through zoning laws. So when you say this place is a residential area, it is residential. When you say this place is commercial, it is this. When you say these are the things that, and the law has also defined what coverage you can do. So these are not things that are missing. So I'm saying that the 1992 Constitution, a lot of us are saying, oh, we need to change it. Yes, the Constitution is not perfect, and there's no perfect Constitution. But are we implementing the Constitution even as it is, in terms of spirit and word? We are not. So there are violations even of the Constitution for which people walk free. So I'm saying that our biggest problem in this country is law enforcement. Law enforcement, and not making new laws or revising existing laws. The biggest problem we have is enforcement of laws. So let's begin to look at those things very closely. And then these issues of ritual events of people coming out and so we need to do this. So the markets need to be built properly. They need to be planned. Everything needs to be zoned. And when we keep on changing zoning laws as if they were underwears, unfortunately, it doesn't help us. Because somebody thinks that, oh, I want to build this here. So he lobbies and then we change the zoning laws and make it. It doesn't help us in all of these efforts. No, I mean, no developing country does that. You see, and that is why I keep saying that the district assemblies, why do we multiply inefficiencies? When you have created a region, you have 10 regions. That region and the districts within that region must plan for land use. They must plan where we are going to dispose of waste for the next 50, 100 years. Where are we going to have our streets? Where are we going to get fresh water from? Where are we going to, what is the power requirement? I mean, these things have to be planned long term. They are not like clothes that we wear every day, you change them. No. So when we are creating more districts, what we are doing is that we are destroying plans that other districts have made for the next 10 years. Because the same land space, then you cut it up and say this is a new district. Yeah. So how does that allow for long-term planning and development? And these are the things that our politicians must stop doing. Right. In the name of getting more votes. We cannot run away from these fundamentals. The land hasn't changed. The land size hasn't changed. Why do we keep multiplying efficiency by creating more districts, more regions? And therefore, it does not allow the districts to do long-term planning. So I like Miracle's examples where he says that, look, he insisted that these are the laws we have made. Yeah. And therefore, we cannot allow people to come in and override them. Very well. District chief executives need to begin to stamp their authority. So you see, the point where we say that they are influenced because they are appointed, I agree with that. But at the same time, if you have a good president, nothing in these laws prevents the district assembly from doing what they need to do. Right. So yes, we want elections ultimately, but the same constitution that not on partisan basis. I reject that. But I'm saying that you see, when we say that because the president appoints these DCEs, that is why we can't move forward. I also say that the same way that the president appoints this, it is also gives him a good chance to change this country very quickly.
Very well. Very well. Engineer, thank you. We'll take a bite from Hamza and then Dennis on this matter before we move on to other matters. But I need to take a quick break at this point. When we come back, we'll give them the opportunity to speak to these matters. This is Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Grateful that you stayed on with us. This is Breakfast Daily. We're having the news review segment. I'm moving to Hamza Suhini next on calls for some of these traders to be given some, if you like, arrangements where they can come back to trade on specific days, but not every day as we have had it. I don't know what you make of this.
I think that it is something that we can explore, because I know as a matter of fact that even in the United Kingdom, we have Saturday markets where certain major streets are closed and specifically used for market activities the whole day. And I heard the mayor, I think that I heard him making reference to something similar, where certain streets on specific days, in actual sense, can be closed for the traders to take advantage of and trade on those specific days. So it's something that we can explore as a country and see how we can take advantage of it. But I know that it mostly happens on weekends. Right. So they can look at the dynamics of every particular area and explore that possibility. But I must concede that I'm beginning to have second thoughts on my earlier call for DCs to be elected on non-partisan basis, based on the engagements I've had off-air with Miracles, my brother. I think that is a discussion we can have, but I am easily convinced, largely because of the experience he has had there in that sector as district chief executive, and listening to some of the experiences and the potential threat it actually even poses to our multi-party democracy. I think that I would succumb to that argument that there's a need for us to have further discussion and possibly explore the possibility of doing it on partisan lines. I am convinced on the basis of his experience and the little information I also seem to share, because if we are not careful, we would have, in the pursuit of making it non-partisan, would have been eroding confidence even in the whole idea of multi-party democracy and the partisanship that is central to it, especially when you cannot have some measured control and accountability at the top when it comes to influence on the grounds. It's something that we should be careful. I think the concern has always been the likelihood of abuse. And our laws can be fashioned out in such a way that we curb the likelihood of abuse. So it's something that is still open. I'm open to any superior argument, but for now, I think that I agree with him that there's the need for us to do it on partisan basis. Having said so, on the same spirit of if you like, seeking for a common ground for, say, the National Democratic Congress and the MPP, it is important to also appreciate that one fundamental importance or pillar of democracy is holding our leaders to account and naming and shaming where we feel that the laws are not working. And when I go on that tangent, I'm not trying to be a propagandist, my brother. I'm simply pointing it as it should be so that other leaders can take a cue from and not to repeat same. When he made reference to the fact that when it comes to sanitation, most of the funds are held in Accra. And the district assemblies are not able to secure them. It is true.
Yeah.
But you see, how do we prevent subsequent governments from doing so? Is the only way is to make it public and begin to ask for accountability and to name and shame officials, especially at the national level, who seem to be engaged in such policies or driving such policies simply because of their benefit. And we saw it in the case of Cecilia Dapa when she was Minister of Sanitation. $43 million World Bank funds meant for sanitation, intended to empower our district assemblies, never got there. Again, about $150 million Garrett project funds made available was also not disbursed.
It was.
To the district assemblies, it was handled at her office.
But it was
you see, so
disbursed.
are you?
It wasn't disbursed.
No, but at least I'm making the communique. I'm making the statement in relation to your complaints in terms of the centralization.
So it was centralized.
It was centralized. Yeah, it was disbursed, but it was centralized, but not to district assemblies. And that's the point I'm making. I'm saying that it was disbursed to the district assemblies. Yeah. So were we surprised when we woke up on a beautiful morning, only to hear that millions of dollars and pounds and Ghanaian cedis could not find its way to the banks, rather under the bed of the said minister? So if we do not...
We cannot say if it was the same money.
No. I'm not making an accusation. I'm just making a point that were we surprised?
when politics and lawyers
Let's keep it neat. Let's keep it clean.
I'm keeping it clean. But that's why I made the reference that, look, there's a need for us. I agreed with him.
You will say this in the law
on the election of the DC.
You will say this in the law
That one was not propaganda.
No, it was
now that I'm agreeing with him on the need for us to ensure that we name and shame public officials who are pursuing an agenda to centralize funds at the top, intended to deny district assemblies the needed resources to be able to effect change. He says I'm doing propaganda. But we have seen it in this country. The motivation mostly is corruption. Because those officials at the national level are only interested in the kickbacks they are likely to get from the centralization of these funds and the control they would exert when it comes to the determination of who executes contract A or B. That is how corruption is difficult. That is the reason why corruption is difficult to tackle in this country. Because we centralize it. There is the need for us to let our laws work. So that, like he indicated, at the district assemblies level, there are assembly members. When the funds are sent to them, the assembly members will be interested in how those funds are disbursed. And if he fails to deliver, the law empowers them to be able to to pass a vote of no confidence on him as a district assembly chief executive. Let us allow these processes to work. And so, when I condemn the centralization, it's not propaganda, my brother. It's simply to agree with you and let you understand that we have reached a stage where certain officials, we need to name and shame them so that this current government, headed by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, will not repeat similar mistakes. But I am convinced from where I sit, and based on the experience of His Excellency JDM, that many of these things will be rectified. Again, the 80% allocation. I also agree with you that it should be 100%.
Right.
We must find a way of getting the district assemblies common fund to disburse directly
To the assemblies.
without any so-called formula emanating from central government. We can do a needs assessment of the district assemblies and begin to go ahead with the disbursement in accordance with that needs assessment.
Right.
When it comes to parliament, the MPs have their interests. So even in determining the allocation formula
let's keep it.
is skewed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's the need for us to take it away from the parliament, the legislature, and ensure that we allow 100% allocation. But undoubtedly, 80% allocation commitment by His Excellency President Mahama is commendable.
Commendable. Very well.
It's commendable.
Very well.
But maybe in the future, there should be the possibility of us making it 100%. They did not even commit to 80%, unfortunately.
Well,
they decided to centralize everything.
Per our current, the structures that we have, are we really ready for a fully decentralized system? Do the assemblies have the capacity to generate the funds internally? I mean, of course, this is plus the 5% that will be allocated.
So first of all, Madam Cecilia Dapa never took any state money to go and put under her bed. And the lawyer knows that.
Never reject an invitation.
Yeah, no, I won't. And the lawyer knows that. You know, but the lawyer is doing politics. So he should just, but he knows that.
Well.
And he even knows he's not supposed to say that.
Right.
You know, but when you ask him, you say that was him doing politics. The fact is that the assemblies have the capacity. We have just decapacitated them, but they have the capacity. The systems are there, the structures are there. We have only decapacitated them. And it's something that has deliberately been done by Parliament and by members of the central government. That is simply the truth. I mean, so somebody is a DC, you say he doesn't have the sense to manage his district. Then 6 months later, he gets an elevation for the president, then he's taking decisions for all the districts. I don't know if you are listening to me. The DCs, they are the ones who are becoming MPs and coming to Parliament and becoming ministers.
Yeah.
So there's a certain hypocrisy on our part. So the capacity is there, the systems are there, the structures are there. We have deliberately decapacitated them. We should go full devolution. Let the districts be independent and run their affairs. That would allow for micro view of the issues. So as we solve them in small spaces, it would have the bigger effect and bigger feel. Because if you go to the district right now, see, I wake up one morning, I get to the office, then my engineer that I've been working on will be mapping and planning for the last 2 years. I receive a yellow letter that he's been transferred by the local government service. Nobody is calling you. Nobody is having a discussion with you. Nobody is telling you anything. Once you receive it, he must go. Why? Why is somebody sitting in Accra recruiting people for me and they expect him to function? Which chief executive functions like that? Right. Imagine you being a head of organization and you just receive anybody at all without your input. And the most painful thing is that when you come to the local government service, there are unions and groups and that are influencing so many things and all manner of things. So these are things that have nothing to do with the systems. It is just a deliberate structure. That is not decentralization. Decentralization means that give the district their resource, that is the fiscal. Let them have control over the administrative stuff. That is administrative decentralization. The political decentralization is where they are going to the legislature, assembly meetings, take decisions, look at their issues. They have technical staff. The engineer read the law where it talks about putting together technical people in the district. They have the capacity. We just have to be confident enough and say that the same people who get elevated to Accra to come and take the national decisions, they are the same people at the district level.
So they can take
decisions at the district level. Then we'll be good to go. Because you see, and let me make this final point. This idea that we can just get onto the street and tell market women to go, the reason why it's not working is because where did you plan for them to go?
Exactly. Yeah.
Before any mayor can succeed, it is after the mayor has first of all done some sensitization, done a census. Do you even know the number of women who are selling jeans trousers? And the number who are selling tomatoes? And the number who are selling all these things? For you to even now say that, okay, I have 3,000 women on this stretch towards Kantamanto. What is the alternative? Ask yourself, why do you think these women come to the road? It is probably because there's a certain bus stop or lorry park where all the people who are coming to the central Accra are lights. And so once they are lights, we want to show them what we have. How do we ensure? Because you see, the traders will go to where the human beings are.
Exactly.
So you can't keep the terminal here and go and put the market there. They will still come. So is it the case that when you move the terminal from here, if you want to move the market women, then be sure that you are moving the terminal to follow them. You understand? So those are all things that you need to think about and give yourself time and plan and make sure that the alternative is ready and functional before you come and sack them. Otherwise...
true. Because it looks like that's a problem we're dealing with. Henry Cotton moved the onion markets to Ajinkutu.
Yes. Who is
and
going
now
there?
the scrap dealers are taking over the Agbogbloshie states.
And even the Ajinkutu people, eventually they will come back. Because when nobody is coming there, you see, when you are moving them to Ajinkutu, you must ask yourself, who are their customers? You need to send your customers to them. Otherwise, they won't have anything to do there. And they will come. So those are things that we need to, in reality, that's why we build lorry parks and build markets, and sometimes you go, it's empty. It is not empty because the people don't want to go there. When you talk to the women, they will tell that nobody is coming to buy. Why are they not coming? As part of your local economic development strategy, you must ask yourself, how do I get these people to go there so that their customers and their target market would also be there? And that is expensive. That is an investment that needs to be made. And like Council said, it's going to be a collaboration between Transport Ministry, who are going to be responsible for GPRTU and make sure that, okay, let's move a terminal here. Let's move this terminal from Rollins Park or Rollins Circle to this area.
Yeah.
That will be a transport business, an urban roads business. Okay, what else can we do to ensure, okay, Ministry of Finance, we need to get some 20 million to build a market and a terminal so that we can move all these people there. Then they will go, because the women, if there is no buyer by the roadside, they will not come.
They will not come.
They will go to where the buyers are. But we are not making any provision for them, for the buyers to go to them. We just think that we can just move them into a certain place and lock them up, and then they will stay there when their target markets are moving, across the street. I mean, I'm passing and I see a jeans. See the way they do it? They then they'll put it around their neck. It attracts you.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they are by the roadside. So I think that we need to be strategic about it. It must be deliberate.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be political. I see the mayors all the time, and not just this mayor, all the mayors. And then they will hack people, take pictures, and then they will bring it to us and say, mayor is working. That is how the mayors feel. Because when you do this, and 6 months down the line, people are there, you are feeling.
That's the experience.
Yeah, that's how they feel. Because now you are setting your own measure.
Yeah.
Nobody has sent you.
Yeah.
Nobody sent you to come and put a camera on yourself and show people. 6 months down the line, when the people are back on the street, they will call you useless.
Yeah.
Because you came to say, I'm coming to put a red line. I'm coming to run 24-hour guard here and take. You are just causing problems for yourself. Because you and I know that what you are intending to do, you are not ready for it.
Right. Let me take a few quick messages.
Before you do, just
a few seconds.
Yes, in a few seconds. I think that I agree with Dennis largely. But my advice to him is to more or less develop his expertise in the area of local government. I'm sure that maybe in the future he would be very useful in that regard. I only hope that after this useful experience, he will not be given the opportunity to be in charge of our local government sector, only to behave like his boss. Propound all the beautiful theories in opposition, only to go to government and is missing. Oh, yes, I'm listening to him. I admire the depth in terms of kind of depth.
I mean, that's his space. That's
his space. I admire the depth. But you see, propaganda. I think that it's not propaganda, but that's the truth. It has always been with implementation.
Yeah.
And that is why those of us, especially those of us who are young, myself and him, I think that we must lead the charge.
Yeah.
We must go beyond the rhetorics when given the opportunity and actually begin to implement some of these measures. I don't know why he had to be reassigned, but I'm sure, pretty much sure that because he was committed to these ideals at the district assemblies level, that didn't find favor with many of his party people.
Why are you fighting the system?
No, be fair.
That's why I use the word reassigned.
I was still reassigned within the local government space.
Yes, but that is the point I'm making. But at least you were more useful. I'm sure you were more useful. You would have been more useful based on what you are propounding today. But clearly, the political limitations, there's the need for us to find a way of taking that out of the system. It's important. I think that these are some of the challenges that if we're able to confront head on, it should be possible for us to have the true impact of decentralization. But like he indicated about the markets in London and most parts of the United States, they have found a way of making it possible to run shops along these designated bus stops or train stops. You walk out of a train station and you see shops lined on the streets. But in no way obstructing traffic.
You should have shops.
You should have shops. So there's a need for us to begin to explore that.
Respecting their
yes, there's a need for us to begin to explore that because you cannot move onion sellers who have strategically placed themselves to a place that nobody goes to. It's not going to be feasible. Is it not possible for us to find a way of actually still running these designated spots at shops in a way that it doesn't obstruct traffic? It is possible.
It's our failure to plan our development.
That is the whole problem.
It could be done.
It is possible.
We could have markets for specific things. There could be a market outside of town where we break bulk for onward transportation into smaller markets in town for sale to customers. But we are doing everything, lumping everything together.
Do you know in Accra they have a market they call Kwasi Ejuaso?
Yes. There's a similar one.
You know why they call it Kwasi Ejuaso? The real market people are inside though. Okay. So when you get there, those you are buying from they are there, you are there.
Let me take a few messages.
And those inside are cycles.
Greetings to your panel. I strongly agree with Dennis that our borders are very porous. There's no way we can completely eradicate the menace. I think what we need is strengthening the internal mechanisms to identify these immigrants and deport them. Nelson in Sydney, Australia sent that. This one says, hello, shalom. I was sad when I heard that items and wares of traders were seized during the decongestion exercise in Accra Central. Those wares seized represent a good chunk of their trading capital. Can't the decongestion be done without preying on their wares or capital? Enforcing discipline should not lead to impoverishment of the people. Jackson from Akwetia says, hey, so Miracle can talk like this? Wow. And then he says a follow-up. He says, please tell Hamza to drop a shirt for me in the studio because I like it. Okay.
Thank you.
I am D. Bella Jr.
Oh no, this is in cities.
It's in dollars.
This is in cities.
I am D. Bella Jr. Good morning, and I'm enjoying the show today. All your topics today is a national security issue, and in my view, when it comes to national issues, I like that of the floods. The politicians should stay away from the conversations because most of the times they come on platforms with their usual politics. Not to disagree to the fact that the two politicians on the show today are, for once, speaking as citizens. Engineer Koside Day is a real professional and a true nationalist. He's really speaking on the issues. This is a true mark of an expert, and I hope our leaders truly listen. Thanks for the education this morning. Thank you, too, for sending your messages in. Our time is fast spent. We're almost running out of time, but I'm going to do a 1 minute each on Boko being in the news again. This time around, we hear an NHIA director has been killed. The MP for the area has condemned the action. The NHIA itself has condemned the action. Engineer, there's ongoing mediation, but it looks like the flames are still burning.
Yeah, this issue came up the last time when I think Otumfuo had been asked to lead the mediation.
Yeah.
And I said that the issue continues because it's been there for over 50, 60 years because political leaders have failed to be decisive in enforcing laws. And now that it's students, let Otumfuo handle the issue. I think that we should move away from this issue where politicians, when it suits them, will say, we should relegate it to chiefs to solve. When there are clear laws that are being broken and people are being killed. I mean, for somebody, an officer or somebody who's just lost his life, that is clearly unacceptable.
Yeah.
So we should sit up and look at the issues dispassionately and then make sure that the law works. That is the only way we can run this country safely.
Hamza, 1 minute on Boko. Dastardly act. Condemnable.
Very. Are we not even tired?
Yeah.
Are we not tired?
It gets frustrating at the
It is frustrating. And you see, Nana, sometimes there's the need for us to understand that our criminal code is not in our legal system to be admired or to be shelved when it suits political players. Those laws cannot be suspended. Murder is a serious offense in this country. So even if you have intra-community conflicts, and there are cases of murder, and there are ongoing arbitration or negotiations trying to resolve the issue, those cases of murder should not go unpunished. It is the reason why we continue to have some of these conflicts, because people know that they can always get away with criminal acts like murder under the guise of intra-conflict or intra-community conflicts, of which the state is interested in resolving peacefully or amicably. We must begin to send strong signals. I remember when the Yana was killed, we were not successful in punishing people responsible for that murder. We may have secured some semblance of peace, but it still remains a bad example for many other communities who are also engulfed in conflicts because they know that irrespective of the havoc that they cause and the murders recorded in the name of intra-community conflicts, they are likely to go unpunished because the state is afraid to take the needed action to ensure that crime is punished. So yes, the matter has been referred to the Otumfuo to handle. But these criminal acts of murder must not go unpunished. We are sending very troubling signals to our citizens.
Thank you, Hamza.
That seems to suggest that it is okay in intra-conflict situations, community conflicts, to kill and go unpunished. We cannot suspend our criminal laws like this in this country. Somebody must be held responsible for this murder.
Thank you.
So that other communities will begin to learn
Thank you,
from this kind of acts.
Dennis, 1 minute on Boko.
If we don't take care, this Boko thing may swallow all of us.
Yeah.
And you know, I made a submission the last time, but I refused to make the same submission this time around. I think I've made that point.
Yeah.
About the politics and all. I think it's needless at this point. I have been to that area before.
Okay.
And I heard with my ears how they are firing at night as if it's a war zone. Pa, 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 pa. I don't think we even spent the night there. We ran back to Boga. And this was in 2023, late 2023. And when I went there, I saw how on people's phones they have WhatsApp platforms and they trade with voice notes to the extent that at some point they were even telling their people in Accra to go hunting for, you know, there are two groups. So Kusasis are telling their Kusasis in Accra to go hunting for particular people, particular Mampusis in Accra. And Mampusis are telling their people to go hunt for particular Kusasis in Accra and go on a manhunt. And when you hear and see some of the weapons they have, ask yourself, how can we be so heartless? Because when you see the people holding those weapons, you know they can't afford it. Where did they get them from? Why are they killing people? I mean, why are they killing themselves? Why? Because even I that come from far away, Ikuapem, and Council Hamza that comes all the way from Tamale. Even the two of us are not fighting. Let alone the two of you who have lived in the same geographical area, and I hear some of them have intermarried, and some are even Mampusis and Kusasis. The mother is Mampusi, the father is Kusasi.
For example.
So why?
The MP for the
Yes, the MP.
Yeah.
So why? My final point is, why are they not afraid
In some 10 seconds.
to be doing what they are doing?
Overrunning.
I think the police, you know those times we used to wake up in the morning and they say that the police have entered an area and swooped everybody.
Yeah.
I think the police and the military has been in Bema camp for years. Some of them are retired without ever going to war. Because Ghana is a peaceful country. I think that we should move all the military at Bema camp, move all the police at the headquarters and take them to Boku. Whether you are innocent or not, they should bring all of them to. I don't think Boku people are plenty like that. If they have to bring all of them into one location and do it's serious.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Points well made. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been good. Hopefully, we'll get another opportunity to do this again. I am Nanatu Forbot, this has been the news review segment on Breakfast Daily. Don't go away. The show continues after this.